China is an impressive leader overall globally in efforts to peak carbon emissions. I think through its efforts, it's clearly, made a commitment to achieve peaking by 2030 and carbon neutrality by 2060. These are important commitments, and it's well on its way to do so. It's been leading the world in not just development, but also deployment of renewables and clean energy technologies at scale, which is very important, not just for helping China to reach its commitments, but also to enable the rest of the world to decarbonize rapidly. And when we look at the scale right now of the transition that's underway, last year, 540 gigawatts of clean energy was put in globally. And of that, almost 300 of it was put in by China in China, right? That's the entire overall capacity of the Japanese energy grid, for instance, that China put in just renewables last year. And it's leading not just in renewable development and deployment, but also leading in electric vehicles and electrification, which is very important as well. We see right now over 1 in 3 cars today are clean energy vehicles that are put on China's roads, and we expect that to grow to nearly 90% by the end of the decade. So China's moving very rapidly toward a clean energy economy. When we think about this transition, oftentimes we talk about petrostates, right, and the ability to lead economies on the basis of carbon development and extraction of oil and gas. China is changing to become the very first electrostate, the first state that's building its entire economy around clean renewables and electricity, and has been very rapidly shifting toward electrification of its primary uses. A percentage point every year for the last decade or so, increase overall, and especially in heavy industry, where we saw that overall carbon emissions peaked more than a decade ago now, and there's an increasing electrification of heavy industry here going forward. I think as China creates these solutions, it then is able to export them and support the rest of the world in its decarbonization efforts as well. We're in a planetary emergency right now, and we can solve that emergency faster when countries like China and the United States and the European Union all lead together, right? And we need to be working toward and moving toward coordinated and, yes, potentially competitive, but cooperative is often the term used, right? Where it's competition, but it's also cooperation that needs to happen globally for us to rise to this challenge. And so when I think about, yes, China has established a great lead, and thank goodness China has, because that now gives us the opportunity to respond at this most urgent moment at speed and scale, right? I think it's an opportunity, though, as well, for China to help build out the capacity of the rest of the world simultaneously. Some of the ways that you address concerns about protectionism or otherwise is to use the same types of things that China has benefited from in the joint ventures that have been created over the years that have supported China's growth. China can now create similar joint ventures out with the rest of the world and help accelerate and support further growth in markets and solutions in coordination and collaboration with other countries in other markets, so that everyone benefits from this transition faster.